Today we are here with Ruby Maddox, and we're going to be talking about her business, Direct Your Purpose. This is the first time C.HR is in this beautiful space. And if you are interested in learning more about this space and you want to record your podcast in a space like this, you can go to the Green Screen Studios and you can rent the space that way. So, and also I have my coffee from the Ethnic Study. Shout out to Stephanie and Simber at the Ethnic Study.
Nice.
They have their nitro coffee.
Ooh.
All right, Ruby, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Great, and just really happy to be here. This is awesome.
It's awesome. So we're going to be talking about your business. So Direct Your Purpose. Can you tell us just a little bit about what it's about?
Sure. So the basic premise of Direct Your Purpose is helping individuals and organizations go from aspiration to action. So basically it's just helping people and companies and businesses get stuff done. A lot of people, a lot of places, for whatever reasons, a lot of things get in the way from us moving from the things that are important to us that we would like to see happen in our businesses to actually implementing and making that happen. And so the work that I do is helping people clear that out of the way, move whatever those blocks are, unpack, what's stopping us from moving, or how do we need to pivot in order to be able to accomplish our goals.
Yeah, that's what I like. I feel like you're taking that side of like the business and the planning and all of that, but also like you said, looking internally at what's stopping somebody from like getting to that next goal. So I know you do like conversation circles with different people. I actually signed up for one myself.
Purpose Circle.
Yes, for the Purpose Circle, and we're gonna get together and talk about like what our goals are and our aspirations are, and kind of like work on that, right? You want to talk a little bit more about the Purpose Circle?
So I've been doing some group coaching, and I thought, what about having a group coaching session where the folks in the session get to also choose the members that they do it with, and realizing that would be, a really powerful experience.
Yes.
That you would not only get to share your purposes with each other, but it kind of works as this de facto accountability group.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
is like mastermind, and so it's built in that way to really help you feel like you have a safe space to, connect with your purpose, talk about your vision. I know the first time that I said, the idea for Leaders of the Free World out loud was powerful. I still actually count that as sort of like how old the organization is, like the time I was able to say it out loud, and giving people a space to do that, and then, talk about how they're going to implement it. What tips can I get them to do that? But also, how might they use the wisdom in the room, the connections and the networks in the room to be able to make those things happen.
Absolutely. I feel like that's, because people always say it's not about what you know, but like who you know. I feel like that's so true. And even and then it's like, you might be on a journey that's similar to something that somebody else has already done, and you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every time. You can learn from each other and grow with each other.
And in that space too, it's just like you might have something that you're trying to do, and it's like, it's not even me. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. My cousin does that and can totally help you out.
And can help you. Yeah, definitely. So what made you want to start this business? Like I know a little bit about like your past, like you were doing trips with students and stuff, right? Like, and going all over the world. It seems like that's how I first like found out who you were, was I was seeing like all the trips you were doing and stuff. So how did you go from what you were doing before to like Direct Your Purpose?
Right. So still do the trips, although obviously a little bit postponed with the pandemic, but we'll be taking another trip next year. And so like, those things are a little bit parallel. My background actually started out working in higher ed. I've been working in higher ed and for 15 years. And then before that also, I worked or started gardening the community here in Springfield. So youth, teaching kids how to grow food. But I think with both gardening the community and working in higher ed, it was really about how do you help individuals find the pathways to connect to the things that are important to them. Or finding the pathways that help people realize that you're more than you thought that you were, right? So I'm born and raised in Springfield. I went to Holyoke Community College, and the whole higher ed thing, going to school, was new to me. I'm first generation. There was nobody in my family that had done it. And so there were people along the way who showed me what I needed to do, what I needed to get done. And that just opened tons of doors for me. And so that's what I repeated, in the garden and teaching kids, like, you can grow food. Yes, you can grow food. And you can see, like, broccoli come from the ground.
Right.
And then going into higher ed, it's just like the students who are in front of me who are just like, I don't know how to get that first internship. I don't have the experience. How can I get that job? How do I get my foot in the door?
Exactly.
And, as a first in myself, when I had to sort of like navigate that stuff, and figuring out what's the back door when you don't know the official way, and how do you ask questions, how do you find that stuff out, it put me in a position to be able to really support them and telling them how to go about that. And then in doing that work, I moved into helping friends and other professionals ask questions about like, well, you started an organization, can I start an organization? Or, can you tell me how to get into this field? And I had all this information of like, oh yeah, I know how to do that, or go here and do this. And
you knew all the people.
Yeah, I knew all the pieces. The pieces, the people. And so when I was at Clark University, and I was doing a lot of that and coaching students on their projects and everything, I realized like, I can actually make this a business, This school's actually paying me a lot of money to do this thing. I can actually do this outside of that, and I can help more than just college students. And that's what I grew my business in doing. Initially, it started out helping people try to launch their business ideas or launch their nonprofits, and then it kind of moved into helping people who had existing businesses and ideas and are just like, what do I do now?
Right.
And I don't care who you are, no matter what, stage you are in your business, at some point you're going to need like help. You're going to need insight, somebody to help you like up level to the next,
to that next point. Yeah, no, absolutely. And what overall, like, what motivates you? What gets you out of bed every morning and makes you want to like keep working?
Yeah. I think, again, it's just like knowing that I can be for somebody else what another person was for me. I can, help people understand that you're a badass, right? You're capable of so much more, and I know this is hard, and I know you're scared. I've been scared too. But this is so possible for you, and that motivates me when, clients come back to me and like, I just booked my first client, or I just launched my first group, or different things that they've done. It's like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have been able to do that, if I had
without the guidance.
That. Oh my gosh, makes me feel so good. And there was one person who was like, your purpose actually is helping other people find their purpose. And it's like, it's amazing how what you do is helping other people do what they do better.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great. You have like a built-in team and structure of people now that you can work with. That's awesome. So I did see on your website, can you share with everybody what your website is?
Directyourpurpose.com. So it's Direct Your Purpose, name of the business.
Yeah. And then I saw you had like a bunch of different speaking engagements. So you've been to different companies, because I feel like I've seen a lot of the side where it's like you're working with people who are small business owners to larger businesses and stuff too. But like you said, you're working with larger organizations who need somebody to come in and like, do you do like trainings for them? Is it just like trying to get everybody hyped up for like the next project? Like, how do you help?
Yeah, so with organizations, usually I'll work with teams and helping to move the team forward as a unit, right?
Yeah.
So you'll a lot of times, even with the mission statement in place, even with the vision statement on the books, different people have different ideas about how to interpret that.
It's just words until you put it into practice.
Just words, right? And so it's like, you're coming at it from this level, you're coming at this one, you just joined the organization, so you have one idea, you've been here so long, so you have a different idea. It happens. So how do you get everybody on the same page? And so the work that I do involves like I call it the Direct Your Purpose framework, right? And so helping people 4 steps, connect to their purpose, create a vision, get clarity about their vision, create a plan, and an execution strategy. Awesome. And so what I'll do is help people or organizations move along that. So when I work with the companies, I'll really have the team articulate why they're there. Why did you join this? Why are you sitting around this table? Yeah. Because the answer to that question is really important. And once they're able to do that, it's just like, then, what is your vision for this company and organization? What do you want to see them do, grow, however you want to see that happen? And figuring out what comes up for everybody. Yes. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you're seeing. And because it's also connected, exactly. And because it's connected to a place that's already, when we've already articulated why this is important, it takes on a different meaning. When people are thinking about their visions, and it's like, all right, great. If this is where everyone's, is seeing, this is what our shared vision is, then what's the plan to get us there? How do we then? We're all on board now. We're on the same page. Yeah. How do we move forward now as a unit? And I think, and how do we execute on that? You know, who's going to do what? And what's really important about that type of strategy is that by the time we get to the execution strategy, everybody's on board with that. Because a lot of times you walk into a thing and the people are like, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. And it's just like, I wasn't even in the room for the other,
when the vision,
the other conversation. So I help teams be able to do that with everybody in the room so that they can move forward more effectively and everybody has an understanding of what they're doing and why they're doing it.
And why they're doing it. Yeah, no, I feel like when people, like, for instance, I feel like in the nonprofit sector, you find people who are so much more motivated about their purpose because usually you don't go... Like, you can make good money in nonprofits. I think you definitely can. And I don't think that just because you work in a nonprofit, you shouldn't be able to be, like, financially successful.
Right.
But I feel like what drives people in that type of sector is really, it comes more from their heart. You know, they're like, you know, I really want to work with the community. And they have a little bit more, I feel like, connected to their purpose. But then when you work with certain organizations, like I remember I used to work at MGM. And their whole thing was like show. Like it was about the experience you were bringing to the customer. And then it took it away from, you know, people are coming in here to gamble, and it kind of put us more on a people are coming here to have a really good experience, to get away from their everyday life and just have a fantastic time and have a time where they can be with their friends, their family, and all of that. And it's funny because, like, I hadn't known about the company. It's not like I grew up like, oh my gosh, one day I'm going to like work there. But because they had that structure and that like that message that they were really consistent about, it kind of it flowed through and it made you be like, oh, I'm not just here for the organization. I'm here to make sure that my customer is having a good time.
Good experience, exactly.
You know, yeah, and I think that's super important. And then some people, like, you know, if their company cares about the environment, like you might have a company that does something completely different, but they care about sustainability. So you're able to connect with your employees and be like, you know, we care about the environment. You know, we're doing something that we already have to do, but we're taking this into consideration. And that might be something that, like, really connects your employee to what you do.
Exactly. And I think connecting to purpose is important, you know, for nonprofits and, as you pointed out, also for for-profits. Like, people need to understand the why. Like, why am I here? Why am I showing up every day? We give up so much of our lives for work that we got to know, you know, why am I doing this? What's the impact, you know, that I'm hoping to have? What impact can I make, you know, for the people who are coming here? Because it matters, because on the days where maybe you're not as motivated, that purpose is the point that's going to actually, like, carry you through those times.
Yeah. I feel like there's a conversation too, like even how you were saying you were working at a school before and then you were like, wait, I can do this skill outside of this. And I feel like that's an interesting thing, because it's like you want to empower your employees to feel like they can grow and develop within the organization, but sometimes you'll have it from like the individual perspective where they're like, you know, I've been spending all this time working at this company, and then they kind of want to take their skill set and like use it outside of the company too.
And I think I forget, there was a coach I heard a while back that mentioned that, because a lot of times when we are thinking that, you know, we don't know enough or we don't have enough experience, we're not good enough to do this, and it's just like, understand that your job is paying you for the skills that you bring to the table. Exactly.
Thank you.
So
absolutely,
it must be marketable somewhere, you know. So, and just like keeping that mindset that if you're able to be employed doing that thing, that's part of your skill set, you know, that you could think like, so if you're going to do that somewhere else, like, know that there is a market for that.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. So I've been like so engaged. I didn't even like look at our questions. So what helps you connect with a new customer? Like when you have that first conversation with someone, like in your consultation, like how do you build that connection and kind of like get a good understanding of what they're trying to do?
So it definitely goes back to my my college advising days, which I still do some of that, but it was just like I'd be put into situations where it's just like a student might have a major or an idea that's like really different than something I've heard of or known. So it's just like, all right, you know, explain it to me, get me excited about it, right? So it's just like having people talk about, you know, the things that they're excited about. Oh my gosh, like, you know, it's such a good feeling, because it's just like, when I'm with you in that session, we are spending the time talking about the thing that you're excited about, that brings you alive.
And it's like infectious, like that energy.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, I get to spend time, just being in that that environment of the thing that just makes you like light up. Then it's easy to sort of like, feed off of that energy and talk about those things. So like when I'm meeting with someone, it's getting them to articulate, what is it that you're trying to do? And then how do we clarify that as much as possible?
Right.
There's so many times where it's just like, we have an idea and it might be a little bit vague, and so the first thing I don't know where to start. And so the first thing I do with people is helping them really get clear, like, what are you trying to do? What's the end goal? Okay. Now that you've made me understand it, because like I'm not gonna be the first person or the last person you have to explain this idea to.
Yes, right.
So
you gotta get this down to it. Science.
Right. So it's like, so I've heard you say, or these things, and so let's try to problem solve around that. Have you thought about this? Have you spoken to this? I think the interesting thing is when, and students used to do this too, where it's just like, we assume that we come to the table with nothing. Right? So like, well, I don't know anything about that. And then you probe a little bit, the people I'm working with, start probing. It's like, well, yeah, there's this like degree I have in that. Wait, what?
But you studied this?
You studied this?
For years?
Like, oh yeah, I used to have a job doing X, Y. That's experience. What are you talking about? No, bring that back in.
Definitely.
So it's doing that and having people, I talked about this morning, taking that inventory of just like, okay, if this is what you want to do, there's some skills, resources, networks you might already possess that you bring to the table to be able to accomplish that. And then the things that you thought you would need to do to actually make that happen, maybe aren't like this. Maybe it's like this. Yeah. Which means that thing could happen next week,
So that makes me want to ask you another question. So sometimes like my friends will talk to me about like their business ideas and stuff, and they're like, oh, but I got to get this and this together first. Can't start till I do that, and I can't do that because I don't have time. And then, so sometimes I'll be like, well, why don't you just start somewhere? Like, why don't you just start having the conversations? Why don't you start by going like Facebook Live and talking about what you want to do?
Yes.
And like, so do you agree with that? Like, you just got to start somewhere?
Agree. Just start somewhere. I want a friend of mine that's just like had this really great idea, and I was just like, dude, you should totally do that. Nah, because I got to do this, and that. I was like, I grew a program on less. It's like, and I love that. Looking back, I can say this, but in the moment it sucked. But it's just like, I love that my journey, had all these starts and stops. I love the fact that, when I started Leaders of the Free World, I had no money. And I really didn't have a ton of fundraising experience, to that level. Like, there was GTC and everything like that, and we had, grants and everything. But it was like starting from scratch with nothing. I had a vision.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. And so I tell people, it's like, the guy who I even run my organization with, he wasn't even in the country when we were building this. He was still in Rwanda, finishing out his Peace Corps service, and we connected. Like, and he's like, my best friend is like running an organization with your favorite cousin. That's
awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what's in your, texting, right? And so, and I say that point because it's just like, start. Yeah. Like, start telling people about what it is you're trying to do. And it's just like, you never know. Like, I didn't have half the stuff that I needed, but just by starting, just by getting, telling people about what it is, you find another piece. And then you find another piece. And then you find out some other resource. And then it just kind of like, it
goes from there. It builds. Absolutely. I love it. So you talked about, you said it's Leaders for the Free World?
Leaders of the Free World.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that's my nonprofit. Started in April 14. First time I said out loud. And so what that organization does, we focus on Black male achievement and international experience.
Oh, cool.
So the first time I went to Ghana was in 2010. And, it was difficult. It was expensive. And in 2010, when I went, it was just like, oh, okay. There's not a lot of other Black American people here. And even there, it was just like, they're like, oh, we don't, usually when people say American, it means, like a white person's coming or whatever. And so that experience was like, so profound, so, awesome. Game-changing. You come back and it's just like decisions that you never thought you could make about your life, the confidence you never, to do things. When you realize like, wow, the world is actually pretty big. Yeah. And who you thought you were in the context of like the United States and the hometown and all that sort of stuff. that completely gets obliterated. And it's like, okay. All right. And you can't really go back to, who you were before that.
Your mindset from before
Your
that.
mindset changes. Yeah. And it's just like, at its core, that's what Leaders of the Free World is about. So when I left that experience, it was just like, more people need to experience this. And I knew, like, the guys in my family, certain guys, like, I knew in my community, it was just like, man, if you knew, what I knew, like, it would change everything for you. It would, like, help you up level. It would change how you saw yourself, like, the potential I would see in them. And it's just like, dude, you could be doing so much, right? And this experience could completely flip the script for you.
Yeah.
And that was what, the premise was. It was just like, by taking these students outside of the country, and at the time it was thinking about, students who were either maybe court involved, or there had been some issues. You're like 18 to 20, 23, whatever like that, the point where you're making decisions about your life and what's going to happen, and wanting to work with those guys and take them out of the country. Yeah. And so we shifted that part of the model a little bit, but the whole idea still is using the international experience, for what it is, the cultural exchange that it is, but also as a moment of, mental and emotional kind of like, intervention, a liberated mindset. And you don't necessarily need to be like, at risk or like going through something for that to mean something.
Right. Anybody can be in that.
Yeah, anybody can be in that. And so we focus on young Black men because that's the demographic that's missing from international experience, study abroad programs. It's like 2%, and so that's why we focus on that demographic. But we also give special attention to students who are in community college. That's where me and my co-founder both started off at. And meeting their potential, those students' potential, with this type of opportunity to help really just amplify who they could be in the world.
Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like that experience, like you're saying, as soon as you get out of the country, like your mind opens up to so many different things and possibilities, and it's super important. And do you guys hear the wealth of knowledge and the experience? Like, that's what you're getting with Direct Your Purpose. And that's the thing. Like, that's why I really wanted to do this interview with you, because it's like, I'm like, you've obviously spoke at a lot of different places. A lot of people know you. But I think somebody hearing about your business for the first time, for them to really get to know you and your experience and what you're bringing to the table is so important. That's
Thank you.
So that's all the questions and stuff I had for you. And I just wanted to let everybody know this is a collaboration between my business, which is Community Human Resources, C.HR, and the ABBP, which stands for the Association of Black Business and Professionals. It's a mouthful sometimes. And, we're working together to the members of the ABBP. We want to give them a moment to, like, highlight them and what they do, get it out to more people. So if you are a member of the association and you would like to come and do a podcast and have a conversation like Ruby and I just have, you can let us know through abbpofma.com. And you can also reach out to me on C.HR on Facebook and on Instagram. So thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.